Out of the pits of Angband there issued winged dragons, and their coming was with a great thunder and lightning, and a tempest of fire. Among them, Ancalagon the Black. But Eärendil came in his ship, Vingalot, from the starless voids, shining with a white flame at the helm. The dragon turned in the sky to face his foe. Then, before the rising of the sun, Eärendil struck Ancalagon the Black, the mightiest of the dragon host, and cast him from the sky. And he fell upon the towers of Thangarodrim, and they were broken in his ruin. Hey Superiors, the most powerful dragon in all of Tolkien's mythology was Ancalagon the Black. But what made him so powerful, and how was this creature of such immense power killed? Well, you saw that animation at the beginning, and we're going to talk through all of that. I was going to make a whole video on all of the dragons of Middle-earth, but that topic turned out to be way too broad, and those who have followed my channel for a while would know that I am terrible with incredibly broad topics. No, I need unnecessarily narrow and specific topics with extensive context to discuss. We are first introduced to Ancalagon the Black during the War of Wrath, where the hosts of the Valar came to oppose the first Dark Lord, Morgoth himself. He had descended upon Arda as a mountain that wades in the sea and has its head clad in ice, and crowned with smoke and fire. And the light of the eyes of Melkor was like a flame that withers with heat and pierces with a deadly cold. And this war was devastating, with angelic and demonic beings warring across the continent, tearing the very land of Beleriand apart at its foundations. Eventually, Morgoth and his forces were pressed into the north of Middle-earth, and so seeing that his hosts were overthrown, he loosed upon his foes the last desperate assault. Out of the pits of Angband there issued the winged dragons, that had not before been seen, and so sudden and ruinous was the onset of that dreadful fleet that the host of the Valar was driven back. For the coming of the dragons was with great thunder and lightning and a tempest of fire. And among those dragons was Ancalagon the Black, one of the first of the winged dragons that we would come to know in the likes of Smaug. To give a bit of scale to this war, it's described early on that the north was aflame with war, and that whole armies had been reduced to leaves in the burning wind. Let alone the fact that after this war, half a continent had been entirely laid waste. There are honestly so many beautiful quotes throughout this part of the Silmarillion. Ancalagon was powerful enough to drive back the hosts of the Valar themselves, and this was after Morgoth's army full of Balrogs had failed. Balrogs, like... Tolkien had designed the Valar with godlike powers over the skies, the ocean, and the earth. Aside from Eru Ilúvatar, the only creature more powerful is Mishka himself. All hail Mishka. For those who are new, I love my cat, you'll get used to it. Now, dragons in Tolkien's mythology aren't just fire breathers like Smaug. In fact, the earliest dragons, the Drakes, didn't have the ability to breathe fire at all. Some dragons had other powers, like Glaurung, who could supposedly put people into trances with just his gaze. But it seems from this description of Ancalagon coming out of Angband that his powers were not merely breathing a tempest of fire, because it's noted that these winged dragons could create lightning and thunderstorms as they flew. Originally, I just dismissed this as the chaos of battle, a stormy background to Morgoth's final stand, but it's not unheard of for creatures of the dark to be able to affect the weather. We can see this with Sauron in The Lord of the Rings. That storm front that you can see arising from Mordor, far above a great cloud streamed slowly westward from the Black Land, devouring light borne upon a wind of war. In Tolkien's mythos, evilly made creatures, or the very presence of evil itself, corrupts the environment around it. You can see this in Mirkwood in The Hobbit, and I think that's what we're seeing happen here, that the sky is blotted out and a storm front shrouds the heavens when Morgoth releases his dragons. But we do know that Ancalagon's flame was renowned for being the hottest and most deadly of all of the dragons that we've known. In The Fellowship of the Ring, Tolkien writes that it has been said that dragon fire could melt and consume the rings of power, but there is not now any dragon left on Earth in which the old fire is hot enough, nor was there ever any dragon, not even Ancalagon the Black, who could have harmed the One Ring, the ruling ring, for that was made by Sauron himself. From this passage he speculates that Ancalagon could have melted the 3, or the 7, or the 9, but not the 1. But it was in this final battle in the War of Wrath that Ancalagon the Black was slain. Eärendil slew Ancalagon the Black, the mightiest of the dragon host, and cast him from the sky. And he fell upon the towers of Thangorodrim, and they were broken in his ruin. And this gives us some scale of his size. Ancalagon may have been the largest of any of the dragons we know of, definitely larger than Smaug, because when he fell from the sky after Eärendil struck him, he destroyed the 3 peaks of Thangorodrim, and these were mountain peaks, by the way. Though a side note on how the Silmarillion is written, Tolkien has implied at various points that some of the tales in the Silmarillion may have been embellished, and Ancalagon the Black may have been one such thing. What we do know is that, after the end of the First Age, the ancient dwarf cities of Nagrod and Belagost in the Blue Mountains were ruined at the breaking of Thangorodrim. The breaking of Thangorodrim being when Ancalagon the Black fell from the sky. So, these 2 cities were destroyed by him. Whatever is true about Ancalagon in this final chaotic battle, we know that his sheer power and size was immense, and that he caused the destruction of these 2 massive cities before dying. Though I really do love that image of him falling from the sky onto these 3 tower peaks and ruining the entire area, of him being large enough to cause that kind of scale of destruction. It's noteworthy that given we know these cities were in the Blue Mountains around here, Ancalagon would have died somewhere near this point in Middle-earth, and his ferocity was so great that it partly caused the destruction of Beleriand, a region that has since sunk beneath the sea, scorched and ruined by the quakes of war. His very death during Morgoth's final stand shaped Middle-earth, very literally. But how did Eärendil kill him, Tim? That's a great question while playing Basement Dweller. This question is a little bit up in the air, but the answer is, not even kidding, an elf flying a blazing ship from space with the force of a comet into his chest. Actually, it gets even cooler than that. Eärendil took his ship, Vingalot, and hallowed it. It passed through the door of night and was lifted up into the oceans of heaven. It was filled with a wavering flame, pure and bright, and Eärendil the mariner sat at the helm, and a Silmaril was bound upon his brow. Far he journeyed in that ship, even into the starless voids, but most often he was seen at the morning or the evening. Vingalot was set to sail in the seas of heaven, glittering and bright, and the people of Middle-earth called it Eärendil, the Star of High Hope. During that final battle with Morgoth, Eärendil came, shining with white flame, and about Vingalot were gathered all the great birds of heaven, and Thorondor was their captain. And there was battle in the air all the day, and through a dark night of doubt. Before the rising sun, Eärendil slew Ancalagon the Black, the mightiest of the dragon host, and cast him from the sky. Now I know that some of that was worded a little bit confusingly, but it's one of the coolest images in all of Tolkien's work. The Valar transformed Eärendil and his ship, Vingalot, essentially into a star that was to travel throughout the sky forever. That description of Eärendil coming from the sky, alight with a white flame, is what I like to imagine a ship afire as a comet, blitzing across the dark sky and striking Ancalagon in the chest with the force of a falling star. Beyond this, Eärendil was actually wearing one of the Silmarils, one of these great jewels with a whole host of vague magical powers, but a lot of their power comes from their light, which has the ability to cast away the dark. This may be seeing the force of the Silmarils in action when he kills Ancalagon. On an interesting side note, in David Harvey's The Song of Middle-earth, he draws a parallel between this moment and another. This is the symbolic reenactment of Eärendil's part in the War of Wrath, as Eärendil descended with the eagles to the siege of Thangorodrim and slew the monster dragon, Ancalagon the Black, so the light of Eärendil descends to the depths to confound the monster black spider, Shelob. The use of the Starglass is a symbolic Third Age reenactment of a First Age mythological real event, and those who have followed my channel for a while will know how much I love literary symmetry, which is all over Tolkien's work. So this moment that we see in the films is in some way reflecting this moment from the Silmarillion, a far grander event. Except this battle may not be where Ancalagon the Black dies, at least not for the final time. So Tolkien's mythos ends with the second prophecy of Mandos, which has taken numerous forms across the years, but what remains true is that at the end of time, Morgoth will find a way to break the doors of night, break free. We're breaking free! And all his followers will be resurrected for one final Ragnarokian battle. Among them, it seems, will be Ancalagon, and in one version of the second prophecy of Mandos, it notes that Turin in the last battle should return from the dead, and before he left the circles of the world forever, should challenge the great dragon of Morgoth, Ancalagon the Black, and deal him the death stroke. So it may be here, on the fields of Valinor, that Ancalagon the Black will be slain by Tyrion for the last time. Though I do want to point out that Tolkien had numerous versions of the second prophecy of Mandos, and he never truly decided on which one was the correct one. What would happen, who would be there, who would slay who. In other versions of the prophecy we have Tyrion killing Morgoth instead, and Ancalagon is never mentioned, and there is some suggestion that the second prophecy of Mandos is not even a thing at all. Either way, that was Ancalagon the Black, and my proclivity to turn 4 quotes into a 1700 word essay never ceases to amaze me. I just make more work for myself. But if you like this sort of content, especially the animation that you saw at the start, that style of storytelling, then please consider supporting me and Supreme Leader Mishka over on Patreon, because that sort of thing costs money, and I would love to do more of it, but I can't afford to do it all the time, as much as I would absolutely love to, because there are so many parts of stories that I love that haven't been put into film or haven't been done correctly, and I'd love to see them done in that fashion. Also, I'm kind of going into doing this full time and building a house, so stress. So thank you for your support me, and come join the Patreon Discord for just a couple of dollars per month. The artist that designed the pieces that you saw at the beginning, there are links to all of her accounts down in the description below. Go check her out, subscribe to her and stuff like that. Really good person as well, really great to work with, and I would love to do more of that stuff, you know, short fantasy series. Also, you can hire her if you want on your own. Question of the day: what is one good thing that has happened to you or someone you love in the last week? Let me know down in the comments below. In the meantime, come follow me over on all of my social medias and stuff. There's links to that probably up on the screen, I think. Otherwise, stay nerdy, Subfuries, and I will see you in the future.